Yes, that's right. I mean, you had, Ken Zucker, the truly a giant and the in the field of gender dysphoria, who actually oversaw the authoring of the definition of gender dysphoria. He was fired.
Right.
He was fired.
Let's
Sorry,
talk
go
about
ahead.
Ken Zucker for a moment or two. So, as you said, he occupied a prestigious position in the world of transgender treatment, and I think was universally regarded as the most outstanding and most objective scientist working in this field. I've spoken to him about it on some occasions, not publicly ever, and he struck me as a dedicated clinician and researcher, and he advocated for, and still advocates for, as far as I know, a wait and see treatment method based on the presupposition that most children with gender dysphoria who evince an interest in transforming their body to that of the other sex should be encouraged to wait, because if a waiting technique, it's not a technique even, I suppose, if waiting is with sufficient patience, most of the children who manifest these concerns desist. I think it's 70 to 80% of them. A certain percentage, fairly high, come to the conclusion that they're gay. And it's perhaps the case that that's driving some of their early gender dysphoria, confusion about their identity. And Zucker was fired from CAMH and also pilloried in a variety of newspapers and other publications as a consequence of what was essentially his mainstream stance. Now, I believe, and I haven't followed this up recently, but I believe that he was engaged in a number of court battles with the publications that had gone after him, and I believe that he won his legal cases.
He did. They had to apologize, and they settled with him. I mean, they really wronged him.
Yes, definitely.
You've seen what. I mean, that's what happens when professionals speak out on this issue. And of course, when I say speak out, all they're expressing is concern that there is an overdiagnosis here. You're seeing young teenage girls who do not seem to have typical gender dysphoria, nonetheless be immediately fast-tracked towards transition.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I'd asked you a little bit earlier about numbers. Do you have any sense of how prevalent this is? And also I'm interested in, and I'm sure the listeners, watchers would be as well, rate of increase.
Sure. So in America, it's a little harder to look at, to come up with these numbers, although I'll tell you the numbers that I do know, okay? It's harder because we don't have centralized medical care like they do in Britain. In Britain, where they have centralized medical care, they can tell you that the number of young women being referred for gender treatment has exploded over 4,000% in the last decade. Okay. In America, we don't have centralized medical care, and you don't even need a diagnosis of gender dysphoria to start treatment. You can start a course of testosterone without ever having received a diagnosis of gender dysphoria. So they're a little harder to come by, but here's what I can tell you. In 2018, 2% of high school students said they were transgender. So that's 2 in 100 kids. That's an enormous increase over what was historically the rate of gender dysphoria in the population, which was 0.01%. So 1 in 10,000 people. Went from roughly 1 in 10,000 people to 2 in 100 high school students. We also know that between 2016 and 2017, the number of females requesting gendered surgery in the United States quadrupled. So we know these are the exploding rates. And then, of course, I've interviewed many therapists, and Lisa Littman of Brown University did her survey. And when you talk to therapists, when you talk to parents, you get the same thing over and over. And that is that the leading demographic asking for gender transition is teenage girls with no childhood history of gender dysphoria.
Now,